Welcome. This is National Kitchen and Bath Association. You're here for utilizing smart home technology for living in place with Louis Delaware, who's the co-founder of the Living in Place Institute, as well as our panelists, Danielle Carr and Crystal Watts of Control 4. And if everyone's there, we're ready to get started.
Well, thank you, Debbie. I'm thrilled to be here today. It's a wonderful day out here in Colorado. And so I've got a really great presentation here today, and I'm just going to go through my introduction. As Debbie mentioned, I am the co-founder of the Living in Place Institute. We do a lot of different training for professionals, including a lot of you kitchen and bath designers that are out there. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. And by the way, this presentation, I know Debbie's recording it, but we'll also have the presentation up on our website as a PDF here in a little bit. But I'm also joined by two wonderful guest presenters today, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. I'm Danielle Carr at a little delay. Hello, everyone. I'm Danielle Carr at Control 4. I am the Certified Showroom Marketing Program Manager and the Control 4 Architect Designer Program Specialist. I work with designers and architects across the country and around the world to pair them with smart home professionals in their area so they can better integrate and understand smart home technology.
Hi everyone, I'm Crystal Watts. I am Control 4's Senior Manager of Marketing Communications, and I'm also the internal editor of our magazine, Control 4 Smart Home Magazine, which you can find online. It has some great tips on how to incorporate smart home technology into your projects, and you can find that at control4.com/HSH. And I'm just excited to be here, so thank you for having me as a part of this.
Cool. I'm thrilled also. So I always like to, when doing presentations, to be able to give everybody an idea of what we're going to cover today. And so first off, we're going to learn some terms for smart technology, as that's an important part of this. And then some of the challenges with technology. I'm going to go into some medical solutions using smart technology. There's some neat things out there. Not necessarily going to use them in all your designs, but there are some things that help people with their daily lives. I'm going to go through some of the smart technology devices that are out there. Some of you may be using them right now. And then we're going to turn it over to Danielle and Crystal to talk about the pros and cons of smart technology, because if any of you have these sort of things out there in your home, sometimes they prove to be a little challenged. And then we're going to close it out with why designers should use smart technology. So let's get started. All right. So smart technology overall, the intention here is to be able to allow science and engineering technology to come together to invent useful and practical devices. And these are especially helpful for people who are, at their home doing what's called the activities of daily living. These are things like bathing, toileting, brushing their teeth, eating, and then goes on from there on to the instrumental activities of daily living. These are a little bit more complex sort of things, doing things like washing the dishes, preparing meals, things of that sort. So on to the Internet of Things, and we may have all heard something about this. There's so many things that are happening right now in regards to what's basically interconnected devices out there that combine mechanical and digital equipment, and then going so far as to being able to tie into animals and people to be able to create unique identifiers to help people be able to transfer this data over network, requiring either human-to-human or human-to-computer interaction. Obviously, with the interaction with a computer, you need some sort of connection that's usually like Wi-Fi or Ethernet based. The scary thing is, between now and 2020, there's going to be over 30 billion sensor-enabled devices out there, and there's so many of these out there. I'll cover one a little later, but one was really key for me recently was a water sensor device, and I'll cover that in a little bit. So if anybody has a fitness tracker, a smartwatch, these are all parts of the Internet of Things that are out there. So high and low technology, well, again, they're relative to the ease of the use of those devices. Think of some of the devices you have at your home that are like low technology. A stapler, that's a low technology thing. Obviously, somebody who has a smartphone, computer, those are the high technology. So I'm just going to cover just show some of the unique things as to technology in the home. Smartphones. And I'm going to ask Debbie to prompt you. Got a question there as to how many of you people out there have at least one smart speaker in your home. And so all of these things, they're now either becoming smart or already smart. Okay, but one of the ones I want to do highlight down at the bottom is eating utensils. And there's something unique out there for, especially for medical therapists, to be able to help their people understand what, how to be able to deal with things like essential tremors or Parkinson's. Okay, so challenges with technology. We've all heard this line, it's so easy, even a child can do it. Well, we know that there's real challenges for some people in regards to being able to use even the simplest of technology. So technology has been solution-based, trying to find how to be able to address problems. Now, I'm a mechanical engineer, and over 40 years ago, the first lasers came out, but the scientists back then had no idea how they could use it. Now we're so accustomed to be able to see laser technology in so many different ways. Barcode readers on mice, things of that sort. Mice being your computer mouse. But at the same time, technology can really delight you and make your life easier. Again, years ago, cars didn't have any sort of thing regarding having cup holders in it. Today, nobody would buy a car without at least one. Usually, probably my car has 6 cup holders in it. Okay, so we're going to go on to the medical issues for smart technology, and I'm going to cover some of these things in regards to vision, mobility, essential tremors, cognition issues, and then other aids. So there are smart technology out there that will definitely help with electronic technology sort of devices. These are to be able to help people live in comfort, maintain and gain independence and their dignity. That's really key for being able to live in place. One of the things that occupational therapists, and happens to be my wife is an OT, is that they will commonly try to make it such that that person's physical and cognitive stamina can be maximized. And by doing this, say using a smart speaker, I can ask it a question like, what's the temperature in Chicago, Illinois today? As we all know that Chicago has been really quite cold recently, to be able to establish, say, a timer to be able to bake their cookies or whatever. But again, the nice thing about this is that it helps maintain an individual's cognitive level. Okay, there's also easy communication that's out there to be able to allow interaction from your home. And then basically the whole intention here is using smart technology allows you to be able to be the master of your own environment, which in the end run helps people who want to continue living in place. One of the other problems that a lot of people have is that if they say they're living by themselves, there is this isolation and loneliness that comes into play. And again, therapists are very familiar with these challenges. And what they try to do is to be able to figure out ways to be able to allow people to easily communicate to the outside world. One great way is like with Amazon, the Echo Show. It's actually got a video camera and a screen that you can do two-way video calls with anybody else who has one of these devices. So it's really quite cool. If you've never seen it happen or use one, it's really a neat technology to use. The other problem with people in their home is that sometimes they need professional caregivers. Well, the problem with these is that caregivers are expensive, $20 and more, and it's going up partly because there's such a demand for it now. But the other thing is that so many caregivers are older and are leaving the field because it's a taxing sort of occupation. The other problem with it is that some of these people are not in the home 24/7, especially if somebody who has cognition challenges. They do need to have that sort of supervision, but it may not be economically feasible for them. So OTs and PTs, they've really started to embrace electronic adaptive technologies. They are, as I call them, MacGyver solution people. They're masters at coming up with unique ways of being able to help people. they're also now keeping up with the trends like you designers are. And their customers, their clients are pushing them in that direction because they recognize they see these things on TV, they hear about these things from friends. And so their whole idea is to be able to, how can I make my client's world better? And the bottom line here is electronic technology is indeed helping them for that. For example, here, I'm going to highlight this is personal hygiene toilet seats. And Debbie, when you have a chance, if you could queue up the question about how many people are familiar with these things. Um, this These sort of toilet seats, yeah, they're one company that makes them is like Toto. They make the washlet. Um, they perform the functions like a standalone bidet, but you don't have to transfer for it. It's a seat that does more or less the bidet sort of functions, but there's some other unique things with it that the seat's warm, the water is warm, the air that dries you is warm, and it sanitizes itself between uses. One of the biggest issues here is that it helps prevent urinary tract infections, especially for women. But the other thing is that for these, it can easily be a solution when people have, especially older, say your parents are living with you, they will draw the line as to having somebody help them with toileting, especially the unfortunate thing about wiping. And by having one of these where there's now starting to have problems about being able to do proper hygiene, this will allow that person to be able to stay in their home or in a family member's home much longer. And part of the problem with say moving into assisted living, it's a $6,000 per month or more proposition. My mom lives in one, and that's what it costs her out here in Colorado. And in certain areas, like in New York City, it's a lot more expensive. So, and I mentioned these utensils. This is a product made by Liftware that basically you kind of see the hand moving side to side up there as it would be for somebody who has essential tremors or Parkinson's. But the food, as you see there, is staying stationary. These are wonderful devices for people who indeed can't, say, use a spoon to be able to put peas in their plate or on their spoon, or be able to eat soup because it's just going to make a huge mess. These things are absolutely amazing. I've tried them many times. Not that I have Parkinson's or essential tremors, but I've seen them in use by people, and it's amazing. Then there's this other device out here that's basically it is what's called a self-leveling eating utensil. There are some people who more or less just kind of shovel their food into their spoon and then lift their wrist straight up. So what ends up happening is the food spills right off of it. So again, these again, unique technology that's out there for this sort of thing. All right, smart technology devices. Obviously, computers, smartphones, tablets, they've been around for a long time. But besides the basic operations they have, they do so many other things. Like in the past, we had separate devices, calculators, typewriters, timers, and the list goes on. Today, all these things can be combined into a smart device, especially a smartphone. And amazingly, mobile devices now outnumber people, and by 2021, it's almost 12 billion mobile devices out in the world. So technology can help us. I'm not going to cover this too much, but computers, they can do so amazing things in regards to helping people who have vision challenges to be able to change the contrast of what their screen is, magnify things, they can narrate, all sorts of wonderful things there. The same goes for smartphones and tablets, where they can change the background as necessary. Again, like some people, like I know, like my mom, who is very hard of hearing, her smartphone will indeed basically flash to her to tell her that someone's ringing her. So there's a lot of different things out there. So here are these smart speakers. Again, wonderful hands-free communication with voice commands. Many of them can do some reasonably good web searches. They're not going to go into the very in-depth sort of web searches that you might get into. But again, it'll answer questions for you, like, when was Abraham Lincoln born? And what's the high today supposed to be in Fiji? Some of these can actually be controlled by an RF remote, which allows you to be able to communicate with it from almost anywhere. And there's thousands and thousands of these skills that are out there that allow you to be able to say, order up an Uber or Domino's Pizza, um, or even ones that help you be able to mix drinks. And then there's things like smart outlet switches and dimmers. These are, again, ones that tie into the smart speakers to allow you to be able to command it to say, turn on the kitchen lights or turn on my porch lights. They can be programmed with custom names. They can be set to go on and off at certain times of the day, like my front porch lights. They go on 30 minutes after sunset and turn off 30 minutes before sunrise, or other sort of events that you want to have. And then there's these smart lights that are out there that, boy, they're especially like the Philips Hue, where you can dial in anywhere between, up to 16 million vivid colors and then various shades of white, depending on what you want to have for that color temperature. Again, all of these are controlled via an app or some of these smart speakers. And I've been in houses where they have these, and they, on 4th of July, where they've made the inside of the house like its own fireworks show. It's really quite unique. And then we see these advertisements on TV for smart doorbells like Ring, where it will sense when somebody comes up towards your porch. And then if they push the doorbell button, I can now answer it. I can talk to them. I can say, I'm not interested, or wait, I'm now going to open up the deadbolt for you. And then the same thing goes for remote video cameras. And all these can be recorded so that, again, you've probably seen the porch pirate sort of things that, unfortunately people are indeed doing that sort of insidious things during the holidays. And here's that remote control deadbolt where I can open it from inside my house or anywhere I'm at, or I can share my app with somebody who's coming to my house, and then I can say, okay, when you're coming, you can only come in within a certain window of time, or you can only come once, and then it'll notify me if the lock's not engaged. Or one of the better things is that I have mine programmed so that at 9 o'clock at night, regardless of what's going on, the deadbolt will always make certain that it extends out to lock the door. I don't have to remember to do that. It will do it for me. Wi-Fi thermostats, the first one's out. You see there the Nest. There's a number of other ones out there like the Lyric. These are wonderful because they learn your patterns in your home, and it will automatically change the temperature. What it also does, like we were here cold here in Colorado, we always like to have the temperature in our house about 68 degrees at 6 in the morning. Well, because it's looking to the outside world to see what the temperature is in my general vicinity, it'll say, okay, I need to turn the furnace on earlier than I normally do because it's much colder outside. It's going to take longer for the house to get warm. Some of these are kind of interesting in that they can actually turn the furnace or boiler off if a carbon dioxide levels in the house are too high. Those devices are usually the prime cause for a carbon monoxide event in the home. Hallways, okay, I show this interesting picture on the left, and I know Danielle or Chris are going to mention something about that later, but to be able to have a means for lighting to occur as one steps out of their bed. I mean, I've hit my footboard too many times in my house that I'm now doing this to be able to prevent my toe from being stubbed. But there's all sorts of devices out there that will help illuminate your environment to help make it safer. Underfloor heating, you might ask why is that like a smart technology? Well, part of this is that there are people out there who have sensitivity issues, primarily coming from what's called peripheral neuropathy, where they can't really sense the nerves in their extremities, especially their feet. And when they step onto, say, a cool or cold tile floor, their nerves go into overdrive and they just can't handle that. The other reason why we always suggest having these sort of tile devices or heating devices in place is that it helps dry up wet floors, especially in bathrooms. Smart garage door openers, again, all of us probably have been prone to leaving our house and trying to figure out, did I actually shut the garage door? So there's devices out there now that will not only monitor but open and close your garage door, and then if again, like my front door at night at 9 o'clock, if the garage door is not down, it's going down on its own because I programmed it to do that way. Smart item locators. These came out on the market about 3 years ago, and they're amazing devices because it allows you to be able to put these sort of tile devices onto, say, a key ring or in a backpack or even on, say, a bicycle, and it allows you to be able to locate that device, whether you've misplaced it or it's been stolen. Some people even put it onto pets or on children's backpacks to try to figure out where they're at. Automatic floor vacuums. These are kind of interesting. They're very smart technology because they're actually learning the environment of the home. And not only will they agitate with brushes, but they'll suction the floor, can program it to do all sorts of things. And it automatically adjusts to the different sort of floor types that are out there. I'm going to point out the two things. One is be careful with pets for two reasons. One is that the pet might do some damage to it. And the other one is kind of an interesting story I heard a few weeks ago that somebody had this with their pet, and their pet unfortunately had an accident in the house, and you can only imagine what happened after that. The other thing is that for somebody who has vision or cognition challenges and they don't see these things, you want to basically make certain it's programmed not to be running during the day because they may trip over it. Sprinkler controls. Again, out here in Colorado, we get rain sometimes, then we go for a long period of time where we don't have any. These things are great because it ties into local forecasts and sees actually how much rain we've had locally, and will turn the sprinkler off for the next day as necessary. Or if it's sensing that there hasn't been enough water out here, it'll water more frequently than I have it programmed for. So I'm not having to worry about it. This is kind of an interesting device, especially for cooking. Obviously, in the home, the number one place where there's fires is in the kitchen. And one of those big things is that, yeah, none of us have ever walked away from a stove and left it on. I'm sure none of you have done that sort of thing. But unfortunately, there are a lot of people who have done that. And what these devices will do is will either sense that you're in front of the stove, so it's thinking that you're attentive to what's being done there, or it will look for changes in temperature in there where maybe say a runaway temperature situation indicating that something may be ready to set on fire. And then what we'll do is we'll actually turn that device off so that, again, it hopefully will either minimize or prevent that fire event from happening. The other thing about these is that I can program this so that it will only work, that stove can only work for certain hours. You know, say it's my mom who's trying to cook something. I'm only going to let her use that stove for, say, 20 minutes at a time, and only during the day, say from 7 o'clock in the morning to 7 o'clock at night. After that, the stove unit has been turned off just to be able to prevent her from doing something that she shouldn't. Water control and monitoring systems. The bottom one, I'm going to point out these water leak flood sensors. Last week, I was home doing something for my wife and went downstairs in the basement, didn't hear anything, then went back down again. All of a sudden, I'm hearing something that sounds like a smoke alarm. And in my utility room, one of the hoses that goes to my hot water tank had sprung just a little pinhole leak. But the sensor picked that up and started chiming away. And I also got an email telling me that something's happening down here. And luckily, it was just, probably all of about a cup of water on the floor. But had I not, been here to be able to take care of it, I could have asked my neighbor to say, go into my house. I need you to turn my water off because I don't want to come back to a flood. The other thing above is the washing machine shutoff valve. These are unique in that, again, many times those hoses for washing machines, when they turn the water on and off, it is basically a spike into the water system. And those hoses that come up to it, they take a beating because every time that solenoid valve shuts, there's a spike that goes back. The neat thing about these sort of devices is that it will actually shut off the water before that hose to be able to prevent that continuous spike afterwards. But more so, when the washing machine's not on, that water is not continuously charging that line. So again, if you go away from home, you're not using the washing machine, obviously, there's nothing that's going to be able to leak out other than what's in that hose itself. Wi-Fi appliances. There's a lot of manufacturers. I'm sure many of you have come across companies that are starting to do this. I know Monogram is very involved in doing this. These are great because I can do things like I can have it turn my oven on to a speed convection of 350 degrees without me having to go over to the oven. I can ask it the status of how many dishwasher pods are in it. Is my dishwasher done, or is my clothes washer done? Or one of the biggest things I like is to be able to say, keep tumbling my clothes in the dryer. I'm not ready to be able to go pick it up because I don't want to have all my clothes being wrinkled. And there's also ones that will allow you to be able to set the water heater to an away mode, because you don't need the water heater necessarily on at, say, 120 degrees when you're not at home. And then when you're on your way back home, you can actually communicate with it to say, let's bring the temperature back up to 120 degrees. When I come home, I want to take a bath. There's also some really neat things out there for helping people open windows and blinds, many of which are done now with solar powered batteries. One of the big challenges a lot of people have is, like you see the picture of the woman down below. It may be difficult for her or somebody else to even open that window, let alone try to operate that blind, because you've got that counter that's going to project out about 25 inches or so. That now makes it kind of an ergonomically difficult thing for somebody to be able to raise that window. So this is kind of a small list of the sort of adaptive electronic technologies that are out there. One of the things I'm recommend is that you connect with somebody who's a system integration professional who installs this type of equipment. Part of the problem with smart technology, I'm sure many of you may have encountered it, even with just, say, a router for your computer, is that sometimes you have to do things like disconnect it from power for 10 seconds and then plug it back in again. Then there's the issue of this market is changing so swiftly. And by using professionals, they know what's going on with it, and they can actually deal, in some cases, with electronic emergency remotely. And one company that we really like that's doing this sort of thing, that does system integration, is Control4. So now I'm going to turn it over to Danielle, or Crystal rather, I'm sorry.
No problem. Thank you, Louis. I really appreciate it. That was some great information on some standalone products that I didn't know about, and some products that we actually incorporate with. So great to hear about those things. You know, a lot of our customers put home automation in for the enjoyment or the convenience aspect, but it truly can transform the lives of the people who need that technology. So to better help you understand how these devices play into everyday life, I like to think about them as experiences. So rather than working on islands of their own with different apps, these products are even better when they function in unison. For example, an independent aging adult may want their shades to automatically lower at night as the lights get bright in certain areas of the house, or they may want to be able to unlock the door from a tablet when an unexpected visitor rings the doorbell. A client who is hearing impaired may benefit from, the lights flashing when motion is detected somewhere in the home or at the front door. Someone who is visually impaired may want their overhead speakers to play the news at 8 o'clock every morning, or an alert to sound when a caretaker has arrived. If you have a client who suffers from limited mobility, they may want to use their voice to adjust the thermostat from down. I have a friend, Mickey, who sadly passed away last year. She had used smart home technology for years after she became paralyzed, and in a few of her words, taken from a blog post that she actually wrote for us, the link is at the bottom of the slide there. She said, what many may not realize about spinal cord injuries is that along with mobility loss, there comes a host of secondary problems, such as not being able to regulate one's body temperature. In warm weather or even stuffy rooms, overheating can lead to stroke. So with two smart thermostats that we put in and a few Amazon Echo devices, we were actually able to give her regulated control with the ability to easily adjust it by voice when she needed to. The benefit of creating these experiences from a few different products really gives living in place individuals comfort, convenience, and safety, and truly allows them to enjoy their life at home independently. I can go next slide, please. Louis, can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So I want to touch on this quickly, but it's very important. You know, it doesn't just make sense to use one type of device for controlling the home, especially for living in place individuals. Pulling up an app doesn't necessarily make sense for someone who is visually impaired. Using voice control doesn't necessarily make sense for someone who is unable to hear. So there are many different options for controlling a smart home, and each provides its own convenience for specific tasks and activities throughout the home. And these are some of the ones that Control4 provides, you know, different touch points throughout the house where the interaction makes sense. If I could go to the next slide, please. So it's good to keep in mind the pros and the cons of smart home technology, because there is both, and especially with both the do-it-yourself and professional installation, what they can and what they may not deliver. Here's a list of some of the pros for DIY devices. They're less expensive than a professionally installed smart home system. You can get it today right off the shelf and install it today. There's no need for a technician visit or added fees. With Pro installed, some of the pros are that the programming can be personalized to the needs of each client. No one person lives the same way in their home as the next person. So it's nice to be able to have that tailored approach and get those specific needs taken care of through smart home technology. It's often easy for anyone in the house to use because it's all in one system that's easy to, you know, activate and navigate. Many of your TVs, thermostats, and other devices can be added to the system, a lot of which you already have, you know, your TVs, your DVD players, Roku, some of those smart devices. It's an infrastructure that can be scaled for more features to be added as needs change. And it can be wireless or wired, which provides more reliability. And a dealer can increase the cybersecurity with password protection. So, but there's also things that, you know, there's a few cons to both of those as well. And because of their different use cases, you know, we have these listed out as DIY and Pro installed as well. So DIY devices can be a challenge to set up if you're not familiar with technology. They are fairly limited in functionality. One device may only control the lights, while another may control the door locks, but some may not control both. Many rely on wireless, so when it goes down, so do your devices. And DIY devices generally have separate apps, which can be more cumbersome than helpful to some people. With Pro installed, you know, the infrastructure needs to be set up through software, and it can require more money and more time. And you'll have to have a professional come back if you want to make extensive changes. You'll have to schedule service calls or add hardware to your system through a professional. So those are some of the pros and the cons. And, you know, obviously we love an integrated system because it's personalized and it can be really tailored to the needs of the individual homeowners. But there might be other things that Danielle can bring to the table. So I'm going to pass it on to her so she can kind of give you some suggestions on how to incorporate smart home technology for your clients.
Thanks, Crystal. Those were really great points. Same to you, Louie. Hello, everyone. Again, I'm Danielle, the Architect and Designer Program Manager at Control4. And I want to just take a few minutes and kind of take everything that's been talked about and put it into a little bit of framework around like how you as a designer can get this technology into your designs without killing yourself in the process. I'm sure some of you are still somewhat on the fence about when it comes to technology. I mean, it's overwhelming, but I want to tell you that it can be easy to add to your designs, and it makes a huge difference for people with disabilities, injuries, and other limitations in the home, as well as just a better living experience. Technology gives a better quality of life to people who often spend the most time in the home, people with physical limitations. And so having that space that is functional and beautiful can help them live a vibrant life that is a pleasant experience for them. The stats that you're seeing on this screen right now, like Louis said earlier, this means that there's going to be billions of smart home devices in homes by 2020. Billions. That's a lot. It's going to become more common for clients to ask about home integrations too, especially as the baby boomer generation continues to age. That's a huge portion of the population. And they're going to be looking for ways to stay in their home as long as possible. They don't want to give up their independence or move to an assisted living facility. So that's where living in place design and smart home technology can provide these clients and others with the ability to stay in their homes independently and safely and do more than just exist in the home, but really live and enjoy their space. Many of you have tuned into this webinar, I'm sure, because you're starting to feel that business pressure now, and it's only going to get more intense. But feeling that pressure and understanding how to meet that need there can be a gap there sometimes. You know, how do you meet that demand in a way that isn't overwhelming to your already incredibly busy lives? I get that everything we've talked about is a lot to take in, and so I'm here to present to you with a easy way to become a smart home expert without having to present countless hours researching and learning this stuff. Next slide, Louis. Oh, actually, the slides are out of order. Maybe the next slide? Nope, go back. Sorry. Nope. Oh, it looks like one of my slides didn't make it in. I'm going to tell you about it then. So get a smart home professional. A smart home professional makes it so easy for you to not have to learn the technology, but have somebody who knows the technology. Just like you have appliance consultants and cabinet people that you bring in on a project, bring in a smart home professional that is local to your area, and they can help make you look good without having to stretch yourself too thin. You can then focus on what you're good at and your expertise and rely on them to bring in technology that is custom for the home. That's also a really great thing, is they can use the off-the-shelf technology, like the stuff we've talked about earlier today in this presentation, as well as custom technology, and integrate those and weave those in to build a really unique and custom design that fits the homeowner living in the space. Next slide, Louis. Some examples of this are kind of things we've talked about. They also include that, you know, on the way home from work, the clients can adjust their thermostat mobily from an app and preheat the oven and adjust other home settings. They can also program their home to send them text message notifications for things like when their kids arrive home after school through sensors and door locks and cameras. This is also really important for people. I've heard of cases for people who have a child with Down syndrome or an elderly parent in the home with some, you know, dementia, and they tend to wander. And so being able to get notifications if a door opens or a window opens can be literally life-saving for these people. For the caretakers to get the notifications. With smart home technology, it also is great, and just general convenience. For example, people can set their home to where they come in and the garage door goes up, and they create the scene to where not only lights come on, which can help people with vision issues, like Louis was saying. Certain lights can come on to light pathways and hallways. Music can turn on. Certain doors can unlock, and it's like Louis said, it's really great because after a certain amount of time you can even have things lock, like the garage door down, the door lock, and just have the home keep the people in it safe. So these are just a few examples of how smart home technology can help. It's really great to have a professional come in because they can see the client, see their needs, analyze the situation, and then offer recommendations that are, so you don't have to learn them all, because who has time to do that, right? That's their job. So I really recommend reaching out and just seeing what they can offer. You can meet with them. A lot of them have showrooms that are excellent to go into and demo product, see what they can offer you, see what they can do, and start building that relationship. So down the road, you're able to just create an accessible living space that really helps the person thrive in the space. I believe this is not supposed to be my slide, but I can cover it. So we all have some experience with technology, and we aren't exactly sure how we can integrate it, but hopefully this presentation has helped everyone learn a little bit more about the different types of technology out there and the ways that you can easily incorporate it into your business. Partner with a system integrator and add the concept of electronic adaptive design into your thinking when you're creating accessible spaces. I also do want to plug a quick plug that Crystal and I will be at KBIS. So in addition to reaching out to us via email, contacting us on our website, you can come see us at booth SU443 in just a few weeks.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Crystal. Thank you, Louie. I do have a question that came through. So are we doing Q&A at this point in time, everyone?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, thank you. So someone is asking, Lisa's asking, where do you find a smart home professional?
That is an excellent question. So there you can go, ones that we know of very easily are Control4 smart home professionals. They are CDS certified, they are PCNA certified, they have a showroom, and you can find them by just going to control4.com. And if you look in the top, there is a button that says either find a dealer or find a showroom, and you click that button and you type in your zip code, and it will bring up the professional nearest you. So that's a really great thing, is you're working with a local person in your area who understands that market.
Okay, great. Danielle, there's another question here. I'm not sure who wants to take it, but Emily's asking, what are the dangers of hacking?
Oh, that is a really great question. As with all technology, there are certain risks that come with that. A great DIY products tend to be more susceptible to hacking because they aren't in a secured platform or integrated into a network that is easily connected. I recommend, if you're worried about that in your clients, to go with whole home integration and a platform like Control4, where the products are integrated into a secured platform instead of just kind of floating about on Wi-Fi, not connected to anything. Crystal, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, I think you covered that really well.
Okay, great. Thanks, ladies. There is another question here. Someone's asking, let me just go back to it, please. Let me just take a look. I'm sorry, the questions are jumping quickly. What is the average? Oh, hang on. I'm sorry. Let me go backwards here. Can you give me an example of a custom device that homeowners can use?
I'll take this one, but I'm not sure what they mean by a custom device. There's custom programming, so we pull in many different devices to create kind of that tailored experience for each individual homeowner. So depending on what their needs are, many of these different devices can create that experience. So I'm not sure what a custom device is, but hopefully that helps in a sense. Danielle, maybe you can.
Yeah, so earlier I think I briefly said off-the-shelf devices paired with custom devices. I was referencing maybe custom speakers in the home or custom lighting in the home. A lot of times, like with living in place, they will do custom lighting down along the floor in the hallway for enhanced visibility that isn't normally standard in homes. So those types of things can all integrate into a platform and work in a scene to where with just a voice command or a touch of a button or a touch of an app, all of this can turn on, which is really great for somebody, say, with mobility issues. They can say, you know, turn on wake up, and all of the house lights will turn on. They have clear visibility. The thermostat will adjust, and so they're not trying to move around and do all these things in the dark.
If you can hear me, one of the things that we always recommend doing at night is to be able to have, say, the bathroom lights come up at about 20% when they sense that somebody has either stepped out of bed or is moving in the room. It's too easy for somebody to be a little disoriented in the bathroom, and to be able to just have it on just a little bit at like 20% is enough to be able to help guide them to the toilet or to the sink and then get back to bed. And after about, say, 10 minutes, the lights turn off automatically. But it's not going to be like turn the lights on full where their partner might end up being awoken because of the added light.
Okay, great, thanks. There's a lot more questions here. So Susie wants to know, how can one get smart home certification?
Well, that's kind of an interesting question. We don't have a certification set up for dealers at this point, but if somebody wanted to become a smart home professional, they would go to our website and fill out the form. There's a series of things that you have to be able to do or provide in order to do that. A lot of times these people come out of the audio video industry. So it really depends, but from a designer standpoint, Danielle might be able to touch on that just a little bit more.
Yeah, so you asked something that I will briefly address because we're going to be talking about it at KBIS. It's one of the things we're going to be announcing is we're putting together a program to get designers and architects and builders certified in technology. So that is coming down the line, and excellent that you were curious about it because we're currently putting together a program for that. So stay tuned.
Great.
Yeah.
Great information. Okay, so there's someone, Elizabeth's asking, what is the average cost of a whole home integration? Any takers on that one?
Well, are you Danielle? Are you there?
Sorry, this is Crystal. My mute wasn't working. It's kind of a question that really depends on what kind of technology is going into the home and how much programming is going to be done. So, it really can range. You can get started with a remote and a controller for $1,000 plus installation, and it can go, up to $50,000 if you want to do an entire home. But it's one of those things that you need to speak to a Control4 professional or a smart home professional in general to evaluate what devices, what systems you want integrated, what programming you want to have done. So it really is a case-by-case basis, and it's really hard to give, an educated quote, So you'd want to talk with a smart home pro to really determine how much that would be.
It's almost akin to a designer, a customer asking a designer, how much is it going to cost for me to, redo my cabinets? Well, the questions that start coming up is like, okay, what are you looking for? You want it stained? Do you want it solid wood? Do you want it, what sort of hardware do you want on it? It's one of those difficult sort of questions that, anybody who does design or construction work it's like the electrician gets the phone calls. I need to add a light to my room. It's like, well, what am I faced with? Okay, so it's those sort of things as well.
Okay, great. Someone wants to know, are the smaller smart devices for washers and dryers, etc., obtained by the smart home integrator or the contractor?
So that would all be available through the smart home integrator. You would just meet with them, talk about the technology you want, and they would be able to provide that. That's part of what they do is they take everything that you want and they gather it together and put it in the home. So
Okay.
even small things.
Okay, good. So someone is asking about like an additional cost for a designer to hire a smart technology expert. I guess they're looking for a range, maybe.
An additional cost. A lot of our smart home, I can speak for ours, a lot of our smart home professionals offer free consulting and a free walk of the house in the sense of that's all complimentary, and then it just comes down to their price for what that install would be. So you wouldn't pay until install is how a lot of them function. I'm not sure if that's answering the question. Every dealer and every smart home professional is going to be different just because of based on where they're located, that we know what the prices are in Utah versus California. So there's going to be a wide range, but they should be pretty upfront with you and feel very comfortable asking, do you have an hourly rate? Do you have a per job bid that's tiered? How does that work? And they should be able to very easily tell you.
Okay. Another question. Are there any dangers to adding the smart devices to your home Wi-Fi?
Actually, no. So well, it depends. If you add them on DIY, you run into the issue of the network being overwhelmed and it dropping devices. And that can be something that we often run into. That's really frustrating for clients is they're like, well, this dropped and this isn't working and this doesn't connect and this is slow. But one of the benefits of going with a smart home professional is they will create a network that all of these devices function on that is meant for the load of those devices. So you're not overwhelming your network or your Wi-Fi or anything like that and having things try to take on more bandwidth than it can bear. So yes, it can if you do it DIY, but if you do it professionally, it will be crafted to fit that device or all those devices.
Okay, another question about wiring. So if someone is doing a renovation or I guess a complete build or a new build, I guess they're asking when is the best time to add these things as you go along, or is it better to get the pricing, for the entire product and solution in the beginning?
I would say that you want to bring a smart home professional in towards the very beginning. They're going to know where all of that wiring needs to take place, and they can work with the electrician to make sure everything gets put where it needs to be. So I would say in the initial building stages would be fantastic. The great thing about technology, though, is even besides just new builds, something that's pre-existing can also be wired or retrofitted for these types of solutions as well.
Okay, and then once again, the questions come up. I guess people are looking for a good average cost to do an integrated system.
Again, I'm going to have to say that it's so difficult to give an average cost. It really depends on what devices are going into the home, how much programming is going to be needed. So I'm really hesitant to throw out any number because everybody's house is going to be different depending on the square footage, depending on again the devices that you're going to put in there. The programming, because there are programming fees that are associated with it. That's pretty much how we can get all of the equipment to run, orchestrated. So unfortunately, I can't give out a number, but a smart home professional could probably give you a better idea if you know what the needs of the client are.
Yeah, and that's a really great thing is that reach out to a professional. There's no strings attached. You can say, I have this project. This is what I'm kind of looking for. What would that range be? And they will be able to tell you a price, and you can take it or leave it. So don't feel that reaching out to them somehow entraps you into having to work with them. They're more than happy to offer up what a range is for that project, and then let you take it from there.
There's a lot of questions in here about, thank you very much, by the way. There's a lot of questions in here about, it's like specialized wiring that you need today. Does the smart home professional actually, are they considered an electrician? I mean, there's kind of a lot of interesting questions around the cost for the wiring.
Yeah, that's really a great question. I can speak on behalf of Control 4 smart home professionals. A lot of the smart home professionals are also certified electricians, or they have someone on staff that's a certified electrician, so they can kind of do like soups to nuts, kind of taking care of their clients. And I know that there would be some specialized wiring depending on the types of speakers you want to put into a home, or the types of maybe like for a higher end client, because a lot of people who go with whole home automation are at a higher price point, so they'll have home theater systems and that type of stuff. But there isn't necessarily like you need heavy duty specialized wiring for the most part. but they'll also be able to address that, and they'll be able to tell you what kind of wiring you need, which is why, like Crystal said, get them in early, even if it's a remodel, because they can then tell you, hey, we're going to need some extra wiring here to manage this or that, or we're going to need to create an equipment room here if it's getting really big, and you can just kind of go from there. I hope that answers that.
So Danielle, is most of the wiring the system integrators do, is it low voltage?
Yes, most of it is low voltage. Like I said, some of them are also certified electricians, because sometimes people want something that maybe gets into that realm of high voltage, but most smart home products are low voltage.
Which don't require a licensed electrician to do the wiring.
Yes, correct. Exactly. So if you're just doing smart home product integration, you won't need that. If you're wanting to do something a little bit more high level, I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example of a high voltage integration. Maybe radiant flooring. No, that's not. I don't know. I don't want to try to say something off the top of my head, but there are some things. But like I said, a lot of our smart home pros either are also certified electricians or have someone, so they can just kind of come in and do the whole thing.
Okay, and once again, I don't think someone heard what you said earlier about how do they find a smart home professional.
Oh yeah, I'm happy to say. You can find any kind of smart home professional just by Googling online. I recommend going and finding a Control4 smart home professional, because I personally think they're the best in the business. And you can go to our website, control4.com, and it's CONTROL and then the number 4.com. And then if you look in the top right corner, there will be something that says find a dealer or find a showroom, and just click on that, and then you'll enter your zip code, and that will give you a list of local dealers and which are smart home professionals near you that you can then reach out to and meet with.
That's great. So I know a couple people were asking to get your information, and I can certainly send all that information along tomorrow when we send, or excuse me, not tomorrow, on Monday when we send the recording and everything. So I'll be happy to share Control4's information and Louie's information with everybody.
That would be really great. Thank you.
Yeah, I know. Oh, you're welcome. And then someone was asking about Vancouver area. So I'm assuming that you do have some Canadian smart home technology professionals as well.
Oh yes, we have technology professionals all around the world. In fact, I think we are now around 5,600 what we call dealers, but we like to refer to them as smart home professionals. So Vancouver, absolutely, we probably have a slew to choose from.
Okay, great. And someone said in the chat that, yes, there are several in Vancouver, so good to know. And we'll share that contact information with everybody. Are there any more questions before our panelists leave for the day?
Well, with that, Debbie, I'd just like to cover a few things. Just let you know about the Living in Place Institute. We were recently endorsed by the NKVA. We do classes called the Certified Living in Place Professional classes. They're either live in person, or that's 2 8-hour days over 2 days, or 6 3-hour sessions done interactively over the internet over 2 weeks. And we have some wonderful discounts for NKVA members. And it's basically, these are scholarships we give to you. And there are also other discounts available to, say, people who are certified master kitchen bath designers. And you can find all this on our website. And then on this, we also do a number of webinars with the NKVA. We also do a number of webinars on our own. And those can also be found on our website. And these are all approved for 0.1 CEUs for NKVA members. And then, like Control4, we're going to have a unique area at KBIS, and we're calling it the Showcase for Living in Place. It's booth S114, not terribly far away from where Control4 is going to be. We have 11 scheduled presentations with over 24 subject matter experts there, like Danielle and Crystal, going through the course of the show. We do suggest to register for it, but the thing is that the chairs are first come, first serve. We're also giving away almost $11,000 in door prizes from our partners that will be in the showcase, including Monogram, Cosentino, Revashelf, obviously Control 4, Viga and Toto toilets. And then we're doing 3 KBIS floor shows of what we call Living in Place recognized product companies. Again, you can also sign up for those. And then one of the other things that we're doing in concert with the NKVA, we all have heard of people who have fallen. And really, what should be done is no one should be falling in the home. And usually this is because of either improper designs or not using the right products. And what our goal is to be able to reduce those falls by 50% by 2028. Again, as a society, costs right now are about $52 billion. By next year, it's going to be over $60 billion just because of the cost of medical care, and then many times these people are having to go into rehab or assisted living facilities after that. So we welcome you joining our initiative of being one of our people on Goal 2028. You can see there on the website. So I'll turn it back to you,
Okay.
Debbie. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Louis and Crystal Watts and Danielle Carr from Control 4 for joining us today. And I just want to thank all of you for being here and see you next time. Thanks again, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.